How the rich invest their money and why it works. What if the biggest difference between wealthy people and everyone else isn't how much money they make, but how they think about where their money goes? Not how they spend it, not how they earn it, but how they quietly position it, year after year. Because if you look closely at how most middle-class people handle money in the United States or Europe, the system they follow looks very different from the one wealthy people use. And the difference is subtle enough that most people never notice it. Let's imagine a pretty normal situation. A 27-year-old professional in the United States earns about $70,000 per year. After taxes, healthcare, and retirement deductions, that might become roughly $4,000 per month in take-home pay. From there, the money starts moving. Rent or mortgage, $1,600. Car payment and insurance, $600. Groceries and food, $500. Student loans, $400. Subscriptions, phone, utilities, $300. Now we're already at $3,400. That leaves about $600 per month for everything else. Saving, investing, travel, emergencies, and maybe a little enjoyment. This isn't reckless spending. It's actually pretty responsible. And yet, many people in this exact situation still feel like they're financially stuck. The issue usually isn't income. It's the order in which money gets used. Most people follow a simple pattern: earn money, pay bills, spend what's left, try to save the remainder. But by the time the month ends, there often isn't much left to invest. So investing becomes something that happens later. Later in the year, later in life, later when things feel more stable. And later quietly becomes 10 or 20 years. Let's look at the math. If someone invests $500 per month, starting at age 25, with a modest 7% annual return, by age 60 that grows to roughly $830,000. Nothing extreme, just consistent investing. But if that same person waits until age 35 to start, now they only reach about $390,000 by retirement. That 10-year delay costs them roughly $440,000, not because of bad investing decisions, just because investing started later. Time, not talent, did most of the work. So why does this happen? Because human psychology is wired for visible rewards. A nicer apartment is visible. A new car is visible. A vacation is visible. But investments are invisible. There's no daily excitement in owning an index fund. No one compliments your retirement account at dinner. And because the rewards of investing show up years later, the brain naturally prioritizes things that improve life right now. This is completely normal behavior. But it quietly shifts money away from the one place where it grows the most. Over time, the effect compounds. Income increases. Lifestyle increases with it. The apartment becomes a larger apartment. The car becomes a newer car. Monthly obligations slowly expand to absorb higher earnings. So even when someone eventually makes $120,000 a year, the amount available to invest doesn't change very much. The financial structure stays the same. And decades later, people often wonder why the numbers never quite added up. Now compare that to how financially intelligent investors usually approach money. They don't see investing as something that happens after life expenses. They treat it as one of the first expenses. When income arrives, a portion is automatically moved into investments, before lifestyle expands around it. So instead of asking, "How much can I invest this month?" they ask a different question. What lifestyle fits around the amount I want to invest? That single shift changes everything. Because when investing happens first, time begins working quietly in the background. Years pass, but the invested money keeps compounding. And eventually, the investment portfolio becomes large enough that it starts generating income on its own. At that point, work becomes optional rather than required. The interesting part is that wealthy investors don't necessarily live more extreme financial lives. They simply made one decision earlier. They allowed time and compounding to do the heavy lifting. And that process works slowly enough that most people underestimate it, until it's been running for 20 or 30 years. If you found this perspective useful, consider subscribing for more calm, realistic conversations about money and investing.